Hi, everyone. Welcome to Public Lab's Open Hour. It's Monday, May the 2nd, and we are going to have an open discussion on Public Lab's research culture. There's no formal presenters for this evening. The topic has been very lively on the mailing lists and in the research notes lately, and we're going to be just opening up space to actually have an in-person conversation about some of the really great points of view and ideas that have come up in the past few weeks. So I have offered to facilitate, and let me kind of give an overview of what I was hoping to do so that we could hear from the most number of people. We could do a quick round of intros among folks who are here in the call and anyone who writes into the chat room. And then we go around again, and with somebody taking notes, we can hear about really like short, clear statements about what people, like how people want to be working in an open science and technology community. And if that's too big, you could just skip to the second prompt, which is, what are you trying to do and have had trouble doing in an open science and technology community? How does that sound?
Good. Sounds great.
Sounds very good.
Gretchen, you want to do a mic check?
I've got the spinning ball of death. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's great because I've got the as far as intros go, I'm Gretchen, and I work with.
It seems like we lost you, Gretchen.
Work with Public Lab, and am really interested in the process of collaborative science. I come from an academic background, and one of the reasons I was so excited to start working at Public Lab was doing science in the open and with people, and so figuring out how to do this effectively is I'm really excited, and like inclusively, I'm really excited about.
Great, thanks. Matthew, can I pass the introduction ball to you?
Sure. Hi, I'm Matthew. I work at Public Lab as well. I come from a design background, and I interact mainly with science and research through written summaries by scientists and journal articles. So my normal research process is in finding historic objects or research and replicating it and trying to compare the results to whatever known industry standards there are. And I don't generally get that far into study design or things like that beyond kind of a replication mode. So I'm really interested in how other people interact with research as well.
Phoebe?
Hi. I'm on the notes page as well and in the chat, so I'm multitasking, which I think I'll probably do for a lot of this call, so I'm just going to be here to listen, but I'm really excited about the topic, and I've been really jazzed about a lot of the conversations that have been floated around recently, and I think it's an ambitious topic, and I'm really I feel empowered that people are having these conversations here on Public Lab. So,
I'm Liz, and my background is in design as well, from an environmental and land use point of view. So my formal interactions with science in that sense is picking up manuals written by scientists on best practices for things like watershed management and finding real world and urban situations much more complicated than a simple set of best practices, and that's how I came to want to be directly involved in community research. And I'm in Brooklyn right now. Bronwyn?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess I come from an arts design library background, so I like research when it is social, but also kind of hands-on and a little weird and a little experimental. So I'm a little bit all over the place, but I'm definitely really interested in knowledge making as a collaborative process. I've been really interested in a lot of the conversations we've been having on the listservs, and I know that they get a little bit heated here and there, but I think that that's sort of also part of the growing pains of sort of the public lab, kind of being more inclusive and kind of bringing people in and sort of not always knowing how to kind of bring everyone together. So yeah, I'm excited to kind of have these conversations, even if people get a little ruffled sometimes, because they care.
Great. David?
Hello, my name is David Days, and basically my work is software development, but I'm a tool maker at heart. I like to make tools, work on things, work on technology, and I'm excited about Public Lab because the idea of working on tools and capabilities and getting them in the hands of the most people where they can do the most good. Come up with something simple and straightforward, and people out there will be really imaginative in how they use it and what they can use it for. So that's my interest in this and why I'm excited about the whole project.
Great. Jeff?
Hey, I'm Jeff. Sorry, I'm in the middle of dinner here, but I'm working on the new rich editor for Public Lab, and so really interested in how the tools that we create together to author things shape the kind of work that we do, and so the rich editor is one example, and I think a system to do some sort of peer review can be another way, and the two are really interrelated. So writing code and so forth, and making this new editor, I'm really looking to a lot of the ideas that come out of this process for what to do.
Great, cool. That is all our intros. And I wanted to mention that Stevie's taking notes in the pad that's on the research documentation page that Gretchen and Matthew and Dave Stock have been editing. And the link to that pad, I already passed it in the chat room. Here it is on the side of the Google Hangout if that's something you're seeing. But feel free to get in there and adjust notes that get written on what people say if you heard more of the words. And for those of you, oh, we have a few more people coming in. Hey.
I'm going to step out and leave room for someone else and watch. See you guys.
Okay, Stevie. Diana, do you want to say hi and introduce yourself and a little bit of your background? Okay, I'm not sure if we have sound from Diana, but Kata?
Hello. So, I'm Keita from Somalia, and I'm here to join you.
It's great to meet you, Kata.
Thank you. Nice to meet you guys.
Great. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Well, so I offered a question that we could go and each answer in turn, which was what, I guess, sort of an open-ended question on what do you want to be able to do here, And if that's too open, then we could go at it from the other side of the same coin, which is, what have you been trying to do and had trouble doing? So I guess that those are open for anyone who wants to take them for a short answer, hopefully.
I'm a bit interested in, I guess, in how we, but I guess effectively build each other up with, like, build each other's research through constructive criticism. And sometimes there's it seems like there's either a reticence to criticize because we want to be inclusive, but then also maybe either jumping immediately to kind of discard an idea, or a reticence to criticize because we want to be an inclusive space. And so how to constructively criticize to build better research. I guess that's something I'm really interested in. You're muted, Liz.
Indeed, I was. Yeah, thanks, Gretchen, and thanks for making a short statement. I think if we can all make short statements, we can hear from a lot of people. Yep, floor is open. Whoever wants to go next.
Well, I can jump in, and as one of the instigators on some of those lively discussions, I'm curious as far as the research culture, which way it goes as far as defining what is research and trying to put some kind of quality to it, either by a gateway approach of letting good research in only, or a peer review additional aid kind of response. I'm more on the help people out if they want it, or if you see something that's good, you can highlight it and say, hey, this is good information, this is a good study, this is something that we can raise up, as opposed to kind of in a gateway approach, which, if people want to hold to an academic standard, it's kind of high for what just my opinion, what the public lab mission is, because a lot of people will do something very small, but it may have a longer, profound effect.
Great, thanks. Diana, I want to kind of check if your mic is working. I see you've joined twice. Can you hear us? Can you say something? Okay, we might not have Diana. Oh, she says I can hear you. Great, we can't hear you for some reason, but we would love to get an introduction from you whenever you get connected. Okay, great. Well, anytime you connect will be great. Someone else wanna go?
I guess I'm sort of generally interested in transparency and sort of democratizing research conversations and research by making sort of your process and your work as visible as possible to as many people as possible. And I think that sometimes, you know, when we're having conversations about things that are good research notes and bad research notes, or you know, what's science and what's sort of kind of just an interesting thing to do out for an afternoon. You know, I think a lot of the time that comes down to sort of kind of a mystery about what it is that people are doing and how they're going about it. So, you know, yeah, I think that sort of the transparency and the sort of the scientific method of what people are doing, whatever that sort of method is sort of evolving to become, I think they very much go hand in hand. And I think that, I think it's sort of hard to have conversations about, you know, process in open science without sort of talking about, you know, the transparency at all stages in people's work. what I'm interested in these days.
Awesome. Who's next? Can I call on Matt?
Sure. I guess most of the time when I'm doing research, I generally end up working with a very small team of interested folks. And I'm interested in the scale at which people collaborate and the different strategies they find effective. I find most collaborations for me stay as a small team for a long time until we get to kind of some sort of shareable functional object. And there are a lot of other strategies to get towards a device, but generally my collaborations are 1 to 3 people for a long time, and I'm interested in how other people end up collaborating.
Okay, great. And I'm gonna, because that's related to some conversation happening in the chat room, I'm gonna actually read out from Patrick Hicksonbaugh what he said. He said he's wondering about what does collaboration look like between people who are far away from each other. He's also got a follow-up question on, I'm curious, especially for those who work full-time outside of Public Lab, what strategies you use to manage time and keep momentum strong on your own research projects. Okay, that's it from the chat room. Who do we have? Jeff?
I'm not sure I have anything specifically to that. You want to? I could add that. Liz?
Yeah?
I was saying I don't think I have anything to respond specifically to that question, but you know, after the topic's over, I could add some other thoughts.
Yeah, no, I didn't call on you to respond. I just, you're the only person in here who hasn't said something that a part of their vision for open research culture of science and technology, or wanted to mention something you specifically tried to do and have had trouble with.
Sure. I think that one of the things I'm hoping to help out with in the design of the new Rich editor is to help people provide openings for others to enter their work. I think it's a difficult thing to both to document your work on a regular basis in such a way that others can follow, but then further to you know, take advantage of what you know, open sourcing your work can do for you as well, which is to say, to get other people to help solve your problems, and that sort of give and take, the sort of mutual reliance that I think regular, almost more conversational or at least discursive research can you know, can enable is really exciting. Like that, you wouldn't be working alone and occasionally just posting something and hoping someone read it, but posting something with specific asks and taking advantage of others' expertise that you don't have to do something together. So that's something I'm really interested in seeing if we can enable.
Great, thanks. I forgot that I didn't say mine, which is that I'm really interested in our research culture as it exists offline and in person, and the kind of collaboration that happens there, and how it happens online in those kind of collaborations? And then where does offline and online inform each other more than just posting pictures of an event that happened? So I guess, yeah, it's a bit, I guess, I guess that's my interest. Now, what if we do another round and try to say, and with no promise that any of these that any of these issues that may be raised right now can be fixed, but what if you could recall really like trying to do something which seemed like really fundamental to what you needed to do as part of participating in a public research culture that you couldn't do? And this isn't all sort of website stuff. It could be like there just maybe wasn't ever the right forum for a conversation, or a topic seemed too big, or maybe it was something nitty-gritty about the website. I'm wondering if we could go and do a round on that, and then have everyone look at the notes, even kind of during this call, and see if we're getting any clusters. Yeah. Open floor. We lost Diana again.
Okay. I can jump in. Something that I was interested in, and it has to do with a lot of things we've been working on and talking about, is actually the data that people can post, or data that they have available, and getting it out to other people. Not just like you have things from MapKnitter and other stuff, but getting actual tabular data up there to say, here are my readings over a period of time. Do with them what you will. Is that somewhere on the website, or is that a capability we'll add in the future, or?
Let's not turn it into a direct question and answer right now. Just sort of just say something you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay, thanks, David. Gretchen or Bronwyn, maybe?
I guess something that I guess is sort of actually related to what David was just saying is I guess in the places where the mostly that are the more what I think of as the data repositories, like Spectral Workbench and MapKnitter, trying to understand why someone has collected certain data, or like how it's relating to a larger project, and switching between there and research notes, and I guess understanding the whole context of different data sets is, to me, it's a little bit jarring and confusing sometimes. And so something that I'm hoping to figure out a better system for, that we all can work together on and figuring out a better system for, is just being able to provide more context in line with data, and where whole projects can be laid out in a more navigatable way. I like the publish early and often, and have like little nuggets as research notes, but a way to make sure that they do create a picture. So that's where I've struggled. And even recently, I had been working for a while on the open water stuff, looking at the development of the connectivity meter, and it wasn't until like nearly maybe 9 months into this process that I found found out through, I think it was, I don't remember how I found out now, but about research that had been done that I had no idea, and it simply because it wasn't very easy to navigate and lump together. And so just that navigability aspect allowing for greater context and being able to understand anything from data quality to just general purpose is something that I'm hoping that we kind of navigate through here.
Great. Thank you. Can I just check in with Diana? Hey.
Hi. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yay!
So, hold on. Can you please do an introduction and a little bit of background, and then however many comments you have now stored up for us.
Okay. All right. Hi. I'm Diana. I don't know. I've been doing projects with Public Lab. I don't know, for like maybe a year-ish now. I am a geologist at Tulane University and a Public Lab organizer. Is that sort of good? Let's see. I think something that Gretchen was just saying about being able to find research that had been done before about something that you were doing, I think that's really important. And I also was thinking about sort of getting people to sort of do their sort of public lab science in a way that's like the way that scientists do it. I think it would be helpful if we could get them, before they start doing something, and sort of have maybe like, before you start, these are the things that you should know and you should try to plan for, and sort of like, because a lot when you're doing experiments and other things like that, a lot of it happens on the front end before you even start doing anything, because if you don't do your experiment in a certain way, then your results are going to be not good. So I think the documentation at the end is important, but giving people some like guidance on how to start and what they need to be documenting as they go along to later write the research note, I think is also important.
This is great. So I wanna take the chance to jump in and say one of mine, which is a lot of people ask how they can help in ongoing projects. Maybe in this case, let's say I'm talking about people with some kind of technical skill, or maybe some way to advise legally or strategically in some way. And I guess it's been really hard to connect with the people who are working really hard on development in a way that could like usefully expand what's happening there versus like causing, it seems like maybe like it causes work for people to have to like take new contributors on sort of midstream. And but I'm wondering about that, like really that moment right there, and the sort of the promise of getting a lot of people working on tough problems when it's hard to get current statuses of projects, so specifically like development processes posted. Yeah. Thanks.
I was going to say, I think one thing we've seen in projects as they become more mature is that the more advanced the project becomes and the further along it gets, the greater the challenge is for a newcomer to get it up to speed to contribute. That makes sense. I mean, if there's work been done, then you have to catch up before you can contribute at the leading edge of that work. But it's part of our challenge here is to try to come up with ways to get around that. And I don't think it has to be a dichotomy of like either do the work or document the work, splitting your time between. I think there are ways, if we can make, publishing tools and also build at a cultural level, build that connection with the rest of the community into the work, then I don't think I'm not saying that you can always just do both and it'll be zero work, but I'm just saying I don't think it's an either or. I don't think you have to stop work and go back and like bring everyone else on board at the expense of doing more work.
Okay, Jeff, can I ask, just for the sake of this little frame we're doing, which is not really to respond to each other's like observations, would you say that you've had you've experienced that kind of moment as being part of a project that moved to an advanced state and wanting to have, you know, places for people to begin, or like I'm just saying, like, could you restate that from like something you personally experienced?
Yeah, I mean, I think, for example, in the spectroscopy project right now, there's a lot of really amazing advanced work going on. We're answering a lot of, questions with really strong empirical data, and we're sort of, as a community, we're tackling some really tough challenges and coming up with really great next steps and so forth. But a lot of that is not easy for a new person to the community to catch up with and to begin, contributing to. So that's an area where when you go to the spectrometer page, you don't see the leading edge. You don't see all that stuff, and you also don't necessarily know. Even if you could find all those other things, you don't know in what order. You don't know how to climb that ladder.
Yeah. Great.
How do you go through all those to get up to speed? You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Come up with that sort of like, try this, then this, then this, skip that, it's no good anymore. Now you're kind of like, you have some of the same vocabulary as other people, so that you can, you can try to tackle some of these problems. Also, I think trying to take complex questions and narrow their focus so that they're easier to empirically answer. So like, a really complex question about, like, I don't know, stability of a webcam's reading over time, like, can someone who's very up to speed on the process lay out a test in simple, basic, steps that someone new to the project could do, even if they didn't catch up on all the research? So different ways to approach it like that, I think, are promising.
Awesome. That's a really cool idea. Can you just put a pin in that until I'm not sure that we've heard from everyone. Like, everyone's being, like, nice and going along with, sort of one topic at a time, which I appreciate. So let me try to keep it so that we hear from everyone on, whatever you're doing on that video, stop that. I'm taking you off the main broadcast. So it would be nice to hear. I don't think we've heard anything from Bronwyn on maybe something you might have tried. I'm not sure. But the floor is open for both sharing, like, something you've maybe even tried, like something you've tried to do that seemed like very core, that you need to be able to do. Yeah, floor's open. Including people who are chatting over at the chat room. I see there's some talk about, okay, so the difficulty with accessing journals. Could someone, maybe Matt,
Sure.
talk about that?
A lot of my research, I get journal articles, and it's hard to. It is a lot of work to share those, because it requires summarizing them and only quoting a certain amount. I can't just post a folder of them. We can post, reference lists and things, and I do frequently. It's rare that I see someone go get an article that has a citation on our page. And when we're trying to build a track record of research, not just in our community, but between our community and other places, that point of interaction where there's an entire universe of scientific research that there's no legal way to really interact with publicly is a huge problem.
Can you post the app? You can post the abstract, though, right? And that doesn't give you all of the things, but it usually gives a nice summary of the article, so you don't have to write a new summary.
The question, in case it broke up, was from Diana. Just a clarifying question was, can the abstracts be posted, or as a summary? Do we know? We might not know.
Well, no, I think you should be able to, though, because the abstract, no matter if the journal is behind a paywall, the abstract is always available. That's how they get you to pay for the article.
Okay, so something we can check up on. Great.
I just want to say she's absolutely right. It's not something we have to check up on. It's
Okay.
absolutely true. But an abstract does not necessarily always give. Actually, it almost never gives all of the information that you're wanting. But yes, abstracts can be
To decide whether you even want to read the rest of it or not. Yeah.
Yeah, I find often sometimes the thing that's useful to us in an article is not even the main subject of the article. Specifically, that came up a lot on the oil testing kits literature page, because a lot of those articles are on newer, higher tech methods of fluorescence, and the parts but there would be like a summary section inside the paper that detailed research or information crucial to the lower tech method being run. It's an example where like the abstract wasn't helpful in a public sense.
Right. Okay, great.
Well, I have a question relating to that. Matt mentioned he wanted talking, or actually both of you mentioned getting I don't know how you call it, respect on the other side or in the academic area with the paywalls. What's the purpose of that, I guess? What's the goal? Having references from one side to another is important. Why?
I could respond directly, but I'm not sure that's what we're doing. Liz?
I mean, I really didn't want anyone to be like put on the spot too much. I wanted to just be able to like air everything. But if you guys want to take the question back and forth, I mean, please go ahead. I'd be happy to table it for later though, if you'd like that.
I think it's a question worth talking about.
Okay, great. Yeah, please. Thanks, Matt.
Sure.
And just to add, I'm not asking the reason to interrupt, but I'm trying to understand the entire culture. So my apologies if I'm butting in.
Not at all, David.
No. I get my response to that, I guess, would go back to my initial framing of my own interaction with the scientific world as a designer, which is I don't feel comfortable trying original scientific research for the most part, and I mainly work in a replication mode that depends on essentially appeals to published literature and the authority of replication in the literature. So I personally try not to work on technologies where I'm trying to demonstrate something beyond published work. I'm normally just trying to figure out how we replicate that at a lower cost. So, so when my process starts from finding someone else's existing known tool concept or tool design, and with a known data track record, and then replicating it to try to get to the type of data they were able to collect with that tool. So if I was doing original research, I could see how that would stay entirely within a public lab online publishing situation, but I generally don't do that. So.
And my interest mostly lies in data literacy is kind of the general term that I use, and in that basically means understanding the understanding the quality and context of whatever data you're collecting, and I think that ensuring that we understand both the scientific concepts that underlie the way tools work, so we can understand what kind of potential interferences there are or artifacts of that instrument, so that we can understand if our observations make sense, and if they don't, how to rectify that. And so I think placing any scientific data collection within the context of scientific literature, and that landscape is really important. And I think a lot of that is especially important in this public science context, where I don't where people can be coming at this with so many different objectives and from so many different perspectives, and so like I guess providing kind of parameters around what a tool does or doesn't say is extra important, because there are so many different potential objectives, I think.
Great. And with that, maybe as we get into the last quarter of our hour together, it's a good time to toss out some of the ideas many of us have had lately. I know I said we would cluster our observations earlier, but I think maybe we have just, we go out on a limb and say we've probably mentally clustered the very interesting things that we each went around and said. Although feel free to do some editing in the notes if you want. But Gigi, and then maybe after her, I'm going to point at Jeff, since I cut you off about your ideas earlier. Sorry about that. Gigi, maybe you could talk about some of the ways you'd like to be able to work, or thinking that we could work together well.
I'm really interested in I guess well, I'll let Jeff speak to a lot of this, because a lot of it does come down to like having like interactive features, like web features, but in terms of like tagging things, being able to clump research notes into a specific project via something like a power tag, and then having like commenting abilities on that. But I guess in more of a less nuts and bolts and more of a conceptual way, I'd like to see us have both, to harness both this doing research in public, publishing nuggets at a time, and inviting comments on those nuggets of research, and then also having a really clear platform on how to synthesize, and incorporating feedback along the way. And I don't know if that means having research notes that we invite comments on and then have a research report later, or if that means we have research notes and they're power tagged into a cluster of research notes, and then it's the whatever consortium of those authors that wants to curate a wiki document on it and have a scheduled collaborative wiki update that curates that research. I think that's another potential way. And then as far as just data tables, like what David had brought up earlier, if we have a platform for databases, being able to call out and discuss data quality in a comment feature on that, and figure out if there are artifacts and if not. So those are three things that I would potentially like to see.
Okay, great, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one thing that'd be really awesome that might get at some of that. I mean, like you're saying, like we're working on trying to help people, uh, 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 publish and share their work in smaller pieces. But obviously, as you pointed out, like then it becomes more fragmented. So although there are more openings, it's harder to see it as a body. That's already a problem, as you pointed out, Gretchen, on our site. To come up to a research note and know where it fits into other research and along a timeline and so forth. So we don't have this, we don't have a current design project or summer of code project to address this, um, but coming up with better tools to thread research in any way, I mean, would be great. Like seeing not only research notes and how they relate to each other in time or in topic, but how comments on those or how data that's been published, alongside them, can be sort of collated into a stream of research, to help people, see where it fits in. Yeah, it's a tough design problem, but it's also something that I think is pretty doable. So maybe that's something as we get this sort of search and sorting system that one of the Summer of Code students will be tackling, and we get the new rich editor and all those parts. Maybe that's the next step, perhaps, is to think about that sort of research stream and looking at lots of different types of research and how they all slot together.
Open for, thanks, David. I see your comment in the chat room. David shared that it's one of his hopes for the new search engine, too. What about someone else in here with some ideas? Maybe something you've previously said in one of the emails or comment threads, but maybe this is a good opportunity, since we're talking about it, to put it in your own words.
Hey, yeah, I've been thinking a little bit about sort of how we index what it is that on the website, which, as it grows, is becoming sort of a database of all of the stuff that's been happening. And I know that we're having conversations about stuff like, what is the purpose of a research note, and sort of how researchy does a research note need to be. And, I think we're getting to the point where there's enough stuff to sort through that it really kind of matters which facets you're kind of including in whatever content you're posting on the website. So I'm kind of wondering about just sort of richer tagging, or sort of a little bit more sort of, I don't know, collaborative indexing of stuff as it appears. Maybe sort of helping people to think through exactly what kind of thing it is that they're posting, and where each thing is probably going to be the most sort of where each kind of thing really fits. I think, in keeping things organized and keeping things not overwhelming, and in making sure that you can find the research note that's really useful, instead of the research note that's really useful in a mixed bag of things that were, events that happened years ago, or that were just more like announcements or questions or things like that. And I think that that's sort of a thing that we can think about, sort of helping people who post to articulate for themselves. Is this a question? Is this an announcement? Is this research? Is this just sort of instruction? Is this, all of those different things that could be in a research note, and then kind of trying to figure out how to make those facets useful to somebody who's searching. And I think that's a little bit of work on the part of the poster, and a little bit of work on the part of the community to kind of take a look at things as they come in. And maybe that's social tagging, and maybe, it could be a lot of things, but But yeah, I think yeah, it's interesting, and I think I know that we want to make things always as easy and as welcoming and as sort of open and all that stuff as possible, but sometimes the fact about science and the fact about kind of putting your work up online is that it is work. It does take some effort, and I think that sort of asking for that, I don't think that's too crazy. And I think that there are also places for things that are more casual and more friendly and less process oriented and stuff like that. But yeah, I used to when it was a little bit more functional, I used to work on the Radical Reference website. Right around the time we gave up on our reference service, we were actually talking about sort of forms that people could use as they're sort of posing their questions that would actually make them walk through their questions in a little bit of a more organized way so that we as reference librarians could understand what they were saying, but so that they were also forced to think about what they were saying and sort of hopefully make the whole research process a little bit more productive and collaborative at the same time. So yeah, I've got sort of a notebook of flowcharts for that kind of thing, but maybe I could sort of think about some public lab research flowcharts. I like those things.
Well, we're very glad to hear from a librarian's perspective on this. Strikes me as related.
I really
and I want to jump in and use my spot and say that one of the smaller things Bronwyn mentioned I wanted to say was also something as an idea I had, which is like I captured a video of Matt and Gretchen explaining part of the particulate air regulations and the technology used to understand different pollution levels. And they were explaining it so well to me when we were sitting on a couch that I just had to capture a video of that. And so, Bronwyn, you mentioned, among the many things you mentioned, the smallest thing was probably, what about more casual channels? I wanted to say, I'd be interested in exploring the use of more like check-ins that aren't written, or just say, hey, this is what we're thinking about right now. We're not telling you, we're not reporting on any answers. We're just, yeah, or maybe when we get to the time of actually reporting, that it's wonderful to just tell it to somebody in addition or differently than writing it. It's something I'm thinking about. Matt, I wanted to call on you because of the chat room activity.
Oh yeah, I wanted to highlight in the chat room a few different resources that have some relevance to what we're talking about. They're not necessarily the most, they're really academic-oriented projects, but Jupyter Notebooks and R Open Science, as well as the Open Science Framework, and the DAT project, which are all projects to create DAT to create versionable databases of data for academic publishing. So when you publish your article, someone else can add to your data set and modify your data set, while someone can still access the version of the data set you published about in the first place. And then the Open Science Framework is really a scholarly collaborative site for managing a research project. But they're things that, for us, they're projects I follow, and they're things to look at in terms of research process. They're all very top-down, structured, academic-oriented things, but we can still learn from them.
Great, thank you. Any more ideas to toss out here as we're getting ready, as we're sort of arriving at the top of our hour?
I wanted to chime in with support for something that Bronwyn said, which she said kind of some work on the front end of like helping someone think through their research process was really helpful, both for the reference librarians, but then also for the person themselves. Yeah. And I wanted to support that and also say as far as making things easier and input, right now it's super easy to post a research note. You just click one button, and the onus is on the person arriving at the site. It's extremely difficult for that person. And so when we think about making something easier and inviting, do we want to make it easy? Is the goal to make it the most easy and inviting for the person that's ready to post their research note, or most easy and inviting for the person that's arriving at the site and interested in getting involved and interested in exploring and learning? And or do we want a balance of those two? And right now, I think we are heavily weighted on one side of that, and we might want to think about a balance more. So yeah, just want to throw that out there.
I appreciate that frame, and it strikes me that some of the work you guys have been doing in setting up pathways to flow through sets of information in more of a narrative way is helping with that, and reminds me of some of Jeff's work on parsing down to very small bits that can be empirically replicated. But that's a super nice frame for a lot of those things. Diana, you don't have to say anything, but you're very welcome to. We're really glad you joined us. If you want to chime in here with any ideas?
I'll just say that I think something Bronwyn mentioned is also something that came up in one of the email lists. I think Jeff said it about how when you're ready to hit the publish button on a research note, you maybe get an additional box or something that would ask you to categorize what you were saying. Is this the first time you've done it? Is this a really extensive research note? Is this sort of an idea? And just sort of having the person posting the thing put it in some sort of category, some sort of bin that makes it easier when you're looking through all these research notes, maybe about the spectrometry kit or something like that. And you're like, oh, this is something that someone that's doing it for the first time, or this is someone that has a lot of experience, and this is the third note they're posting about this. And having the user just put it in some sort of category might be easy and might be really helpful.
Great.
I guess I'm going to go the opposite direction on suggestions on stuff, which I think is, instead of necessarily asking users to categorize, I'm really interested in how we get people to edit pages, those intro pages. Gretchen was talking about those different audiences, and that's tough, but I think we could do more on manually reading through, rewriting, and summarizing each other's work. And as much as difficult as that sounds, I think that is probably the clearest way to get to clear intros. And so I'm wondering what social processes would support us in actually doing that, because it's work.
Yeah, great question. I feel like I've edited, maybe it's been a while now, but I feel like I've edited some of your writing and got to a more accessible intro. Yeah, it's a great process. Well, we are right at 9 o'clock, which does not mean that we have answered the question of what is public labs research culture, but hopefully just having this time together, with video, and just having a regular conversation and to just get connected and say hi will help us continue all of our various email threads and comment threads. And I guess I would like to point at a really good place to continue having influence on this conversation now, probably directly, is to comment on that thread about what's going to be in the rich editor, the rich editor package of work. Just because it's stuff that would mean Jeff's actually going to do it. So working on that thread for in the nitty-gritty will be really useful. Other than that, yeah, conversations everywhere, always good. Does anyone else want to add something here at the close?
everybody's quiet.
Okay then. Let me just thank everyone who joined us in the Hangout, who watched the Hangout, who is chatting in on the chat room. Really appreciate it and look forward to this discussion continuing. Good night, everybody.